Alright, so we are here at my favorite place. Not to say that King's Academy is supporting one place over another, but this is my favorite place. It's Hobby Lobby. And we have approval from the manager to come in before store hours so I can show you a little bit about pencils. I've asked your children to get some pencils for class. I want to point to exactly what we're looking at and kind of why the pencils look the way they do and just kind of describe things to you. And also we'll try to look at paper. So let's head on in there. Okay, so now that we're inside the store, we're gonna go in the back of the art department. But I do want to say this one thing. Don't forget to walk, as you're walking through, pay attention to all the things that are in here because these are idea makers. So follow me, come on.
Come closer, come closer. Looking around at different ideas and patterns. I love walking back here. It's great stuff. That's awesome.
So you're gonna see things like this over here, and these are very tempting, and sometimes they're really good to have big packets of these things, but I want to show you a little bit different way to handle some art supplies. So come over here real close. I want to show you a little bit about what pencils do, and really everything art is about putting a mark on something with something. And so this is the first place we're going to start with putting a mark with pencils. So I want to show you real quick the different kinds of pencils that you can have. And you're going to want to look at these numbers, or these letters and numbers here. This is an HB. The H, that stands for hard, and the B stands for black. And the H obviously is for the hardness of the graphite that's here, and the B stands for the softness of this graphite here. So when you're looking at this right here, you have 4H, which means this is a really hard pencil, meaning it's going to make a very fine line on the paper. And over here is 4B, which is a very soft lead or graphite, and so it's going to make darker marks on the paper. That's why it says 4B. And you can go all the way up to 8B, and I've even seen some 10B. So with this, you have, and really any of these pencils will do. I usually use these green ones up here, the Kimberly pencils. That's just my preference. And you'll see that there is the marks over here. So this is a 5B, a 4B, a 3B, 2B, all the way here. The B's are generally what you're going to use for the art, for your art. The H's are what you're going to use for more like drafting and architecture. Although I do have H's in my own pencil case, I generally stay into these here. So you can buy individual pencils, and oftentimes these are good to do, especially when you get into some of these darkers, these 6Bs. You'll go through these pencils really fast, and so I sometimes will just buy a package of 2 or 4 of the 6Bs. But you probably, for your students, will want to look down here at these packets that they have here. These little packages of pencils are going to have generally what you're going to consider art or draftsman quality leads. So looking over here, let's grab here we go, let's grab this one. So you're going to look here, and this is going to have an HB, and HB is basically a number 2 pencil. So an HB, a 3B, a 5B, and a 6B. And so all these pencils are going to be in this package here. This is a really good one. But there's also something else that you want to get too, which is a pencil sharpener and a hard eraser like this. And so you'll look at this. Make sure you have a 2B, a 4B, and a 6B. Remember we said that keeping in the B's. So you have a sharpener and a hard eraser. Get some of the bigger ones, bigger packets. It'll usually have all the ranges of the B's and a couple of the H's, because a lot of times, you know, artists do use those H's. But these big packets here are also good to have as well. The thing that a lot of people say when I'm shopping myself in here, I hear a lot of other parents say, they're so expensive, they're so expensive. And they are, but they're for a reason. You do want to get the higher quality pencils and other kinds of equipment. mostly because you don't know if you get the cheaper stuff. Sometimes the cheap pencils and the cheap paints, their quality is going to be so low that your students' skill and ability in art will surpass the quality. But if you don't get the higher quality, you won't know that. So I usually say, go ahead and spend a little extra money for the higher quality, and you will be happier about that. So when you see a $21 ticket, then I want you to feel good to know that this money that you're spending is going to be for high quality pencils here. And so I've asked your students to grab a set of pencils, and really this is all you need: an HB, a 3B, a 5B, or some sort of variation of these here. It doesn't really matter what kind of pencils, just as long as they're a variation of these harder leads. The other thing I've asked your students to get is a pencil sharpener. So this package here has a pencil sharpener and a hard eraser. There's also something else I'd like for you guys to be aware of, and something I've asked your students to get, and that is with this gray piece right here. This is called a kneaded eraser, like you knead dough. This is a kneaded eraser, and it's a soft, pliable, almost like silly putty. And what it does, it erases marks by lifting the graphite off of the paper, versus these white ones generally scrub the mark off the paper. So you're going to have this, and I've shown your students a little bit how this works. You can buy them separately over here. So these are all the erasers. So these are the kneaded erasers, these little gray packages here. You see kneaded eraser. So you can buy them in packages here. This right here is a hard eraser, if it's kneaded, it'll say it, kneaded eraser, this way here. Sometimes students will get these, and I have some of these here. This is just this is an eraser stick. You see some stuff over here. This is charcoal, and right now we're going to stay away from charcoal. This is what I wanted you to see. This right here is the same kind of pencil as these, except there's no wood casing. This is solid graphite. And so they're called woodless graphite pencils. And these come in, this package has an HB, a 2B, a 4B, and a 6B. You may ask yourself, why all this lead? Well, if you're drawing on big pieces of paper with big marks, then these are kind of great to have. But generally these wooded pencils will be fine. But these here, just want you to be aware of, are pretty cool. So if your student starts to get good at art, then you can know about these woodless graphite pencils. And now let's talk about some paper. So follow me to the paper. All right, so another thing that's kind of overwhelming is the paper section. So you have all these paper. So if I just said grab a pad of paper to draw on, this is what you're going to come to. So what is all of this? So Strathmore is usually probably the best known paper company. What you're going to be looking for right now is a sketchbook. So you're going to see the sketch, or it's going to say drawing here. Sketch and drawing, different quality, but not too much different. I would go ahead and look at the sketch pad here, and this may be a little bit too big to begin with, and this may be a little bit too small to begin with. And so you have this down here. This is pretty good. Now this one also has perforated on the top, so you can actually tear the pages out. I don't generally like to do the pages that get torn out, because I like to keep the pages all together in my sketchbook so you can see how things progress. But that is a neat feature to have that in there. They have different drawing books, like they're actually bound books. You'll find those mostly at like the Barnes & Noble. Those are hard to draw in. They look nice, and they look nice to the eye, but they're very impractical, I think, when it comes to sketching out really fast. Because sketchbooks are for sketching fast and light, and get it open, draw, and get it closed pretty fast. I'm looking here. This is a spiral bound and a hardback case. This would be pretty good, because this means you don't have to worry about your your sketch pad kind of flopping over while you're drawing. It's nice and compact and firm. So the papers you're gonna get for right now are your sketch pads and your drawing pads. Looking for a spiral bound because that makes it a lot easier to draw. These are too big. If we do have a special project, especially next semester, we may work on this size paper as well. But we also have some paper at the school that we can do as well. I just wanted you to point to this section here. So when you come and get your sketchbook, get something that is that says sketch or drawing. Get something that is spiral bound. And other than that, you're pretty much free, and you're not going to make a mistake when it comes to paper. You're going to see a lot of numbers, 60 pound. That's just, the higher the number here for pound is, the thicker the paper is going to be. So this is a 60 pound. Think of typing paper or copy paper. That's 20, and so this is 60, and it even goes on up to here's an 80 pound. So 80 pound is even thicker than that. So when you come to the store, maybe take a look and kind of experience, kind of touch feel the paper. That said, we're almost done. That said, when you do pick a pad of paper, don't just choose the top, because what I've just told you to do is to touch the paper. That means a lot of people are doing the same thing you are. And so I will usually grab this bottom part. That's the people that touch the paper the least, and you'll have less marks. One little hack about pencils, real quick, is that a lot of times when you're sharpening a pencil, you'll notice that the lead breaks really easy. More often than not, what that means is that the lead is broken inside the pencil. Now you can blame the store, and that could happen, but usually when it comes to those pencil leads are very, very fragile, and just dropping them from a table height will break those pencil leads inside your pencil. So there's a good chance that you bought them with a whole stick of lead inside that wood, and then when it dropped off the table, because you let it roll off, or you're eating your cereal and forgot and bumped it with your elbow, like that never happens, right? It hits the table, breaks those leads, and it makes it real hard to sharpen, because you're sharpening, all of a sudden that lead just kind of pulls right out, and then you have to sharpen it all the way down again. So I guess I'm saying for you to, as a pencil hack, to go ahead and be very careful with the pencils that you buy, and put them in a case, or put them somewhere that's special, and keep them well. So that's pencils, and that's paper. If it gets too expensive, you can get the Hobby Lobby app, and every week there's a 40% off coupon on what you buy, but also it has these flyers that come out, and just kind of wait for those sales to come across, and